We are now live. Hello everybody, sorry we're a bit late. We've had a busy day today.
Yes, we have. Oh yeah, it does seem dark, doesn't it?
Can you see us okay, guys? Hi Yvonne. Sorry we're a bit late. That one?
That one? Definitely not that one.
Can you see us okay? Yvonne, give us a sign if you can see us okay. Guys, welcome to Now Chat Show. We are back for another Sunday. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait for a few more people to come on the live. I think so far, Yvonne, it's just yourself. So we're going to wait for a few more people to join us before we get started. Looks fine.
Yeah, that's it. We haven't been drinking. We're drinking tea. Keeping it sober. It's been a hectic day today.
It has.
Hi, Rose. Who else have we got on there so far? Mike Fannell. Hi, Michelle Burton. Welcome. If it's your first time to Now Chat Show, welcome. We are a platform to inspire, and we're going to be inspiring you today because the topic for today is Let's talk about sex. OMG, SEX. We all love sex, don't we?
We're here because of it.
Well, definitely. We were created due to sex. So let's up the thing.
We have been deconstructing dating over the last 4 weeks. This is the last episode in that series. Last week we spoke about online dating. And today, as Kaz said, it's all about sex. So we do have a special guest joining us, Yvonne Michele. And I think we're just going to get straight into it, right?
Definitely. Go straight into it.
Yeah. Say hi to a few people. Hi, Deanne. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Deanne.
And Rose Catering and everybody else. Okay, so we are going to request you right now.
Hey, Ryan. How you doing, sir? Right.
Okay, so we're just waiting for Yvonne to join us. Hi, Trevor. And she should be coming up in just a moment. Hi, Trevor. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Just connected.
Yes, you.
Hello.
Lovely.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well.
Very
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, love your hair. You look amazing.
Thank you. So, look at you ladies. My God, you
Oh, thank you. We were hosting a book launch earlier, so we were kind of debriefing that, having to have something to eat, and so yeah, hence the few minutes delay. So we do apologize for that, but we're really excited to have you join us. Thank you so much for giving up your Sunday to be with us today. So we're just going to get right into it. We've already introduced the topic to everybody. Yvonne, tell the people who you are, fully what you do, what you're all about.
Right, well, I am Yvonne Michele. I am an empowerment coach. I am the founder of the Global Empowerment Movement and Academy, and that serves women. It helps women to set up businesses, get their lives on track, and make money. I run a relationship show myself after dark on a Tuesday, and that's on Facebook and Instagram. Not Instagram, YouTube. And what else do I do? I do many things. I'm a singer. I'm an author. A business owner, a mother,
Wow, so many hats. So many hats. How do you fit it all in?
You know what? I have a lot of energy. I have a hell of a lot of energy. So I need to use it up. And so I use these things to use up the energy and to live and to help and to thrive. That's how I've always been. I don't know it any other way.
Mm-hmm. And that's very important. If you do have energy and you've got loads of talents, just explore them all. It should be, you know, we've got so much inside us that's divinely been given to us, and we just need to explore it and really understand and fulfill our purpose. So you mentioned your After Dark series, And that series has been very successful, very interesting. And I know that there's been lots of exciting talk on there. And I think you've had one, or you've got one coming up that's all about toys and what place they have in a relationship, et cetera, and how they can impact sex. So like Michele said, she does that on YouTube. We will be posting her social handle details a bit later. So you can, Yvonne, said she will be posting her details a bit later so you can find out all about that. But for this, so if you've been following the series, Yvonne, we've tackled many different subjects to this point today. So this is the last in the episode. We said we've saved the best for last.
And this is the best.
And this is the best. And we spoke about the single black female. We tried to dig into that. We spoke about dating from the male perspective. Last week was about online dating.
And we also continued part 2 of online dating on our radio station on Friday. Guys, if you want to catch the replay, do go to iLive Radio UK on YouTube, and you can see part 2 where we were speaking with Jeremiah, Calvin, and Charlie Jai. And we went deep into the thing.
We did, didn't we?
We sure did.
But like we said, today is all about sex. We've got Yvonne here to help us unpick the subject, talk about it.
So I've missed some of what you've said. If you give me 2 seconds.
No problem.
No problem.
It might be maybe the Wi-Fi connection.
I think it is the Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
it's definitely the Wi-Fi, Yvonne. Do you want to go, and then we just invite you back in a moment?
I think I might be able to hear.
Yeah.
Or it might have to be the 4G, or get closer to your
the router.
To the router, maybe. Deanna says it sounds a bit iffy today. Is that on our side, Deanna, or is that on Yvonne's side? Can you hear us?
Cutting out for me as well. Oh,
we? Is it us cutting out?
No, she said she's cutting out. Cutting not for me as well. Oh, it's cutting out for
Deanna as well.
It looks as if we have a technical problem all around. Can you guys give us the thumbs up? Can you see myself and Janelle? Can you hear us fine? Thumbs up if you can. Thumbs down if you can't.
I think it might be on Yvonne's side. So we'll wait for her to get set up again. Yvonne, we know that you're watching, so just send us a message when you're ready for us to rejoin you, and we will rejoin you. We'll request you again.
Can't see.
You can see us
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Deanna.
Yeah. So I think it's on Yvonne's side. So Yvonne, you might have to, if the Wi-Fi is not that strong, you might have to revert to your 4G, basically, just your regular service, if you can, of course. So just let us know. So guys, anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and on this Sunday afternoon. It has been sunny today, which has been nice. But like we said, we are going to be talking about sex. It's the last episode in the series, and there's lots to talk about.
There is lots to talk about. So what are we going to talk about? Sex. Thumbs up if you love sex. Okay, so nobody's putting thumbs up, unless there's a delay on your guys' ends. I personally enjoy sex.
And why? I do as well. And why wouldn't you? We're human beings. I mean, for some people, it's not their thing, but I think for most people, that is how we have been designed, because we are creatures at the end of the day that are designed to procreate. And, you know, sex within the right context can be very enjoyable and very fulfilling. But there are many different aspects to sex that we want to explore, especially sex in the modern world. So we're going to be talking about monogamy, polygamy, celibacy.
What's polygamy? Is that just a multiple relationships?
Yeah,
Oh.
Polyamorous relationships, more than one.
I think a lot of men were like that.
Some women.
True that.
You know, I've seen some documentaries where women have they have multiple partners, and the partners know about that,
Gross.
and they're okay with that. So I think we have a conventional idea of what is standard and what's normal. But then outside of that societal convention, there are things that work for other people. We're also going to talk about casual sex, you know, hookups, especially with these online dating, right? Because what was the statistic we saw the other day?
I think it was like about 90% of men, they literally just go on there. It's just a hookup for a bang.
What's a bang?
A bang is just getting, well, a bang is just like having sex in it, like, you know, with
so
one bang, and it just doesn't go nowhere, just having a look, something.
That's it.
Casual thing and just gone.
And so
I really like, as if to say, this is what I do at my zone. So Yvonne,
hey Tracy. Okay, we can see that Yvonne is back with us, so we're gonna rejoin you now, Yvonne, and hopefully the connection will be a bit better. So yeah, Deanne said leg over, literally leg over. And in and out. Someone said the other day on our radio show, Jeremiah said a bank job. You're in and out, and the job is done.
Yeah, literally.
And that works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think sometimes it depends on the place that need to have those casual encounters come from. Sometimes it can be that people just are exploring their sexuality, and that's okay. People go through growth and explore their sexuality. Oh, you're back. Hello. And sometimes it comes from a place of damage or trauma that somebody's been through that leads them to certain promiscuous behavior.
Yeah.
Are you hearing us okay, Yvonne? Is that better?
It's like there's still a delay.
It's the feed, it's the delay, but yeah. Okay. Can you hear us, Yvonne? We can't hear you.
Oh no. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Thank you, Tracy, by the way. Thanks for joining us. I'll be sending your book. Oh, we can hear you. There we go.
Yay.
Can you hear us, Yvonne?
Hi, Lisa.
We can hear you now. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh no, we've lost you again. I don't know if you can maybe you might just have to use your own signal at home. It might just be that the Wi-Fi isn't strong enough. So maybe.
Fantastic.
Perfect. You're in the room with us.
Both. Yeah, the Wi-Fi's not good. Hold on.
Are you able to use the 4G?
Okay.
Isn't strong. Hey, Kian Dana. See if you can try and use your 4G, Yvonne. That might, if you can, that might help a bit. So anyway, while we're overcoming the technical difficulties, we were just talking about, you know, the way that people approach sex and the way that people deal with sex and the way that people kind of views that shape how sex should be. And let's try and rejoin you again. There's another request there. All right, let's try again. So there are societal views about how sex should be, you know, and especially in the Western world, we are taught that sex is between two people. And for most people, that works. Or for most people, that's what they expect anyway. But that's not always the way that life is, and there are many different kind of you know, many different types of relationships, and it should be about what works for each individual.
Yes.
And what you're comfortable with, and not being exploited, right?
And I think this goes back to even when you're dating, you know, like in order for you to hook up with somebody, you should really have some kind of conversation. And I think if it's going to be a casual thing, you should make that very clear. So that nobody's actually got like false expectation of this relationship or it becoming a relationship. It's just literally sex.
It is, right?
Yeah.
All right, you're back with us again. I think we got a stable connection now.
Yeah, I've tried everything. Here we go. That's better. I'm back.
That's much better.
There we go.
So yeah, we were just kind of giving a kind of rundown about the things we'll be talking about. We want to delve into monogamy, polygamy, celibacy, casual sex, hookups, and what is acceptable, especially in this modern world. I think that's just quoted a statistic about roughly between 75 to 90% of men who use dating sites or dating apps are just on there for really just sex, really. And there are a lot of females too who are on there for just sex. And if that works for those individuals, that's fine. But I guess there is also the element that some people are just exploring their sexuality. And that's okay. You know, as you age and as you grow and as you go through life, it's okay to explore your own sexuality. But I think where it becomes a problem is when it becomes harmful to yourself, and where maybe a certain level of promiscuity is coming from a place of like trauma.
Yeah, which can it can happen, and it happens quite a lot, to be fair. People who have experienced sexual abuse, anything around that, have been known to, not intentionally, it's more an unconscious act of having these promiscuous relationships, or they're not even relationships. They are just things that people get into because of the hurt, the pain, the shame, the anguish of what they've been through in the past. So it's very common actually for people who have been through trauma to, I call it self-harm. That's what
I think that's a really kind of good way of summarizing it and summing it up, because I've got friends who I can say fit in that box as well, in that they're like, female friends I'm talking about, who they're like, yeah, I'm just free with myself and I'm this and I'm that, and I just love sex, and therefore I want, I go about and have multiple sexual partners. But really, they're not happy within that. And it is coming from a place of either abuse that they've encountered, sexual abuse in their childhood, and some kind of trauma as well, So I think that it is about where it's coming from. And like we were saying, it's not just that, we're not here to judge anybody and say, oh, it's wrong. If you want to explore your sexuality, that's wrong. But it's about, is it doing you harm, or are you protecting yourself? And not just health-wise, right? But are you protecting yourself emotionally, spiritually, mentally, or are you actually harming yourself? And I think a lot of people fool themselves into thinking, oh, I'm good with this, but actually really they're not, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of outside external sources as well that would lead, especially women. I mean, I had this conversation today with my daughter and my son. I was listening to Cardi B and this big debate on the lyrics of the song, and and I was and they were just watching my expressions when she was saying what she was saying. But I bring that up because she's openly expressive about her sexuality, what she wants. And on one hand, it's great, yeah, be empowered, yeah. I see the alpha female in her from that perspective. But then on the other hand, for those who are less likely to come forward, they might be shy, they might have gone through trauma, they might have all different types of kind of things going on in their mind. Is that kind of thing helpful? Is she looking after herself? What is she saying to other young people, about just giving it away? The part of me is like, yeah, be that empowered woman. But there's another part of me, which is the mother part of me, that's saying, hold on a minute. This is what you have here is valuable. And very often trauma can be, like I said, abuse. But what came to me as we were talking was grief, losing people, just people dying. I know of people, I've experienced it myself, where when someone has died, it's kind of like, I need that extra comfort. I just want to be in someone's arms. Do you see what I'm saying? So women are always looking for that emotional connection to make them feel good. But if they are giving it away and just opening up their foot and just say, come on now, is that, I don't really believe that that's giving them what they need or what they actually want.
I would agree with that. Sorry, someone's just said that your mic is very quiet. I don't know whether you need to turn up your volume, but they've just said your mic's very quiet. I agree. I have, so this whole WAP what thing with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, I have my own personal views on that, and I'm not judging them. Yes, there, like you say, there is the part that they are so-called empowering themselves as females, but I think the empowerment has come from in a societal context that's very male skewed, if that makes sense, right? So it's like, yeah, men mostly enjoy sex, and they enjoy you know, looking at women and the visual female form and talking about sex, and you know, maybe even pornography and erotica and whatever else. Men enjoy that. So we are now going to try and own that. The lyrics, I don't agree with. Like, for me, it's like you said, what you have. I mean, people may disagree with me or with us, but the female, if you really want to take it back to spirituality, and especially the female of African descent, is a spiritual being, almost divine goddess. We give life. Yeah. And what we have in our temple, especially if you are talking about that intimacy, it's all, people describe it as a gateway, literally a gateway to heaven.
It is.
So can everybody just come into heaven like so, and it's open and they're free for all? Why should it be? Shouldn't it be precious and protected, right?
It is a gateway. I love the way that you put it. It is actually a gateway to heaven. You think about the act of sex, lovemaking, and when the arousal point, because it's arousal upon arousal upon arousal upon arousal until you get to that peak. And when you get to that peak, it feels like heaven. Your body, well, I don't know how you feel about orgasm, but
hello, I think we all do.
Let me just say this, because I've heard some people say they speak a different language when that thing happens. Their whole body, their spirit leaves their body. Your vibration is so high at that point. So it is a gateway to heaven. So when, you know, if you're young out there, you're a young lady, you need to know what you have between your foot. You really need to know the preciousness of that thing. It is a gateway to heaven. You are taking him and yourself to a place that you've never experienced before, and it doesn't last that long in that moment. So you have to really, and if you're just giving it willy-nilly, you're just giving it out, it loses its flavor, it loses its the essence of the goddess that you are.
Absolutely. And we're not taught this. We you know, people are discovering this more and more, and there are books that have been written, and certain you know, people and gurus that have studied kind of the tantric tantra and what that is all about, and the purpose and the portal that you have as a female and that gateway. But I think sex has become, for a lot of people, very selfish. It's about them. Yeah. And it's about their own experience. It isn't about the other person. Whereas for me, it's a very sacred act that should be between two. There should be this emotional connection between those two people. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be within marriage. I don't necessarily think that that's the case. But it should be this sacred act of intimacy where you come together to share and enhance each other's experience. It's not about what I can get, but it's about, actually, if you're entering into that because you want to express your love in a higher form to that person and make that person feel good, and that person should make you feel good. But a lot of the time it's just this selfish act. I'm just going to get my rocks off and bounce, really.
I'm going to bust a nut. That's
precisely.
That's what I've heard. Men say the ultimate goal when they are having sex is to bust a nut. So men who are listening, you put in the comments, you know, whether that's true or not. But for a female, that is not the mindset that we have. And so if you are going into a friendship, a relationship, you are never ever going to get the joy. You are never going to experience the heaven. You are never going to experience the essence of that woman like you're supposed to. So you are actually cutting yourself short. You are making you're dimming your light. You're dimming everything in you just to bust a nut. What's the purpose of that? You can bust a nut in your own hand.
Come on now.
Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
You can use hand on her 5 fingers, her 5 friends, and bust that nut and go back your business. But if you really want to experience the spirituality, the essence, the coming together, the gateway to heaven, then you've got to leave all of that stuff behind. And
that is so true.
Yeah, really be true.
And you spoke about being a mother, and the thing is, I know that now there is so much pressure on this younger generation with social media, with all of these viral videos going around, with easy access to pornography, all of this kind of stuff. There's so much pressure on these youngsters to be sexually active from an early age in school, and pressure from boys as well. And there's this whole issue of consent. You know, a lot of guys or young boys onto girls because they feel that that's what they should be doing. And there's all of this pressure, and not even without the understanding of what sex is truly about, you know, and it's quite dangerous, I think.
It's very dangerous. I've had experience of working in high schools, and what I see, and I'm just going to say this as plain as I can, for the people who are parents, for the mothers and the fathers, you are not friends with your children. You are their parents, and you are their parents first. That means that you cannot be seen to be looking the same as women. Your daughters are not supposed to look the same as you. When you're walking down the road, people are supposed to know that's the mother, that's the daughter. But there's a thing that's going on right about now where mothers are in competition with their daughters, and they're dressing the same, talking the same, and acting the same. And so that then puts pressure on that young person, because mum's acting out. Mum ain't setting no example. So they can't even talk to their mother to say, this boy or this person is making advances and I don't know what to do. When they're going to their parents are chatting to them like it's their friend and not giving them the advice that they need, first and foremost. And then that makes me query where the parents are in terms of their own lives and their own values, their own morals. But certainly in schools, I see it. I've seen it every day where the pressure is girls feel like they have to dress a certain way, be a certain way. And there's all this taking pictures. I never know, say you could take a picture of your tun so much until I went to high school, because it's like a thing. It's common. I'm like, how difficult is it to take a picture of your underneath? Because it's you know, the cameras are not built to do that. You're a bloke, the boys can do it all day long. But for girls, it's a little bit different. But they do it. And then it goes out to the whole school, it goes out on social media, and there's a way of bringing it back. But I've seen young girls self-harming, attempting suicide, all because of the inclination of what sex is and what they think they have to do or how they have to behave in society today. And we really need to really pull this in and have open and frank conversations like we're having now to youngsters, especially to kind of help them to navigate their way through life, because it's become so open now. You know, everybody's just talking about sex, everybody talk about pum pum. You look on the internet, you see the inside of the pum pum from the outside. You never used to see all those things, but now the pressure is on, and young people cannot handle that.
But then what you're saying, Yvonne, and I totally agree with what you're saying, but I'm looking at Lady J 007, and she's made a remark in regards to, you know, like, it's a shame in terms of when you look at, say, the reality shows and everything else, they devalue sex. And, you know, as much as we're saying in regards to young people, even us as mature adults as well, we be taking pictures, we be sending pictures to each other, you know, and it's not necessarily your actual significant other. It's just some casual guy, whatever, you know, we're sending our personal part to those people, and you have no idea how that's being circulated, who's seeing it, etc. But would you not say, in terms of the media, you know, even like Janelle mentioned about WAP with Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B doing their tune on WAP, you know, basically, you know, wet ass pussy. And, you know, when you look at things like that, how then can we just ensure that our young people don't go to that direction where this is what's really like feeding their spirit?
First thing is taking responsibility.
So who's taking responsibility? Because if you've got the adult, but then if you've got adults who are doing the same thing, then what chance does the child stand in? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Because when you look at reality TV shows, it's adults as well doing these things. So how do our young people, and even just people like ourselves, you know, there's some of us that is quite promiscuous and things like that, and I'm not trying to blame or push things, because I've been very promiscuous growing up myself, but I know that came from a place of trauma. And, you know, it made me behave in a certain way. When I was younger, when I was in school, I used to let boys touch me. I did. Do you know what I mean? Because I was going through what I was going through, and that was a level of getting attention, and I didn't know anything different. My parent didn't say to me, what you have in between your legs is precious. No one wasn't educating me with that. And for the majority of us, none of us got educated with that. Some of us just knew, and some of us just didn't.
Right. So when I say taking responsibility, it is taking responsibility and taking ownership. You've been very honest to say that you used to allow boys to touch you. And this is what I mean by taking responsibility and coupling that up with honesty. See, I have a 21-year-old daughter. I'm not hiding stuff from her. If she was like, if maybe she was 12, I wouldn't be as transparent as I am now. But there is no conversation that we cannot have. None. I will talk to her about everything from orgasm to blowjobs. It doesn't matter what it is. I will speak to my child and be open and honest and say, this is, look, I had my first child when I was 16 years old. So I'm going to count out these things. You see what I'm saying? I feel I'm in a position to talk these things because I didn't know. And I was just led by this young man, and we had a relationship, and I had a child at 16. What a 16-year-old child doing having a child? But nevertheless, I have a child who is now 34 years old, right? So we've grown together. So what I'm saying is, so for me, when I'm talking to my children, there has to be, I have to take 100% responsibility for my life, what I've done and how I've done it. And two, I have to also be honest. Yes, I did that. I didn't understand why I did that, but I did that, and this was the outcome. And I think if we can get to a place where we stop ducking and diving, we stop being ashamed of the past, and we just take responsibility and ownership for our lives and what we've done, it would make life easier for those coming up after us. Now, it's a long process. It's not going to change overnight, because you do have things like the TV and all of those things. But if you instill in the young people around you, then it will be like a wave effect. Like when you throw a stone in, the ripple effect. And that's all that we can do, because we can't fight against the media, because the media is bigger than us. Unless we soapbox and start saying, hold on a minute, this has to stop. Look at Mary. When I was growing up, there was a woman called Mary Whitehouse.
I remember her.
Remember? And she was like on it, hard. And I used to think, what's wrong with this white woman? What's wrong with her? She's just a miserable old woman. But actually, her values and her morals was what was driving her to help and say, no, we shouldn't be seeing these things. These things are not good. These are not good pictures that we're putting out for young people. And when she died, the whole journey of what she would, her whole legacy seemed to have died with her. No one's picked up the banner. But we have to, as the elders, because believe it or not, as young as we believe that we are on that journey to become the elders. So we have to take responsibility first before the young people.
Definitely, because what's happening is that, I mean, going back to my childhood, my parents never spoke to me about sex. It was taboo. You know, you see a little flicker of a kiss or a bit of intimacy on the TV, the channel's quickly changed, or apparently it's your bedtime. They never spoke about it. My mum never told me about my periods. So where did I find all these things out? I found them out. Okay, we didn't have social media back then. I interacted with friends and spoke to friends about it. As a teenager, you're not necessarily going to be reading books or you know, that's not your go-to. Your go-to is your peers, your environment. So having said that, I mean, for me, my sexual encounters were very different in that I didn't start having sex until quite late, comparative to what's going on now. And I always had this, I don't know where the view came from within me. In fact, I do. There was quite a large group of friends, female friends, that I had, all my age group, on the estate that I grew up on. And funny enough, quite contrary to what is this, oh, sex is nothing these days. Sex is like, it's normal. You should be doing it under pressure. We were all, we you know, around the age of 16 or whatever, had boyfriends, but we were all abstaining from sex. You know, we were all abstaining. We were saying that, no, we don't want to. And it was almost like this competition to see, oh, you haven't, no, you haven't, no, you haven't. And we had this precious view of ourselves that we shared with one another. And I give thanks for that. But now kids are learning. Where are they learning about? From the playground, and just from the worst place ever, which is pornography, which is not a true reflection of what sexual relationships are all about. And so these young boys are expecting to have these girlfriends and have anal sex, and, you know, be having these girls gagging when they're performing oral sex, and all of these crazy things that you see in these pornographic movies. That's not true. And also, they're not ready for that. Emotionally, they are not ready for that. It's so dangerous.
But also, I would like to add, not all I mean, as much as we're talking about pornography as well, but some of these kids are actually seeing it in their home.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You do have parents, I think Charlie made a comment as well, you know, you do have parents that are not even, they're not even like parents themselves, they're not mature enough. You know, and so they're doing certain things. They could be having multiple different partners coming through the house. Their girl child, their boy child is seeing it, and that becomes their norm. You know, this is what our parents do, so this is what we have to do. You know, so it goes. Everything actually plays a part in all of this. But I think equally, as parents, when we are going to have children and everything, because obviously, like you said, Yvonne, you had your daughter when you were 16, is that correct? So there was 16, yeah?
Yeah.
There wasn't nobody really guiding you there. Do you understand what I'm saying? My mom had me when she was young as well. No one was really guiding her there, or, you know, a lot of us, I mean, thankfully for me, my mom did speak to me about sex when I was about 11, because I was one of those quick bloomers. I, you know, had breasts and everything else, and I came to my period quite early. However, as Janelle mentioned, in terms of, like, she had a tight circle of friends that was very, you know, they kept their virginity. I felt a completely different pressure. I was like 18, and it was like, you still got your virginity? Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So I felt pressure that I needed to get rid of this virginity. You know, you know, lose my virginity and have sex. And when I did, it was the most awful experience ever. It was horrible. But then it became crack. I got addicted to it. Do you know what I mean? The nonsense. So it couldn't have been that bad, but it was just the feeling of what it brought with it. Then that was it. It was just game over.
Yeah, I definitely think that your environment around you is key. I mean, when I lost my mum when I was 11, so there was no one, and my dad was like not present. He was there, but not present. And so the environment wasn't good for me anyway. So if I give you just a brief synopsis, so my mother died when I was 11, And after my mother died, the week after, the 3 days after she died, my cousin started to abuse me sexually. So, and that went on for about a year and a half until we were evicted. So in that period of time, so this is why I talk about trauma, and I can understand how people fall into that trap of needing that reassurance, that comfort, and going into the arms of the wrong person at the wrong. I get it. And actually, and being a child that was abused, there was something in my mind. There was like something missing. So I'd always be looking for something, even though it felt at the time it was the worst possible thing to happen. But later on in my life, unconsciously, I was still looking and gravitating towards things that were no good for me, but because they were offering that kind of thing that I thought was saving what I needed, I would just draw to that because of the trauma. So, you know, when we are looking at these things, and we're talking about the parents, and the parents are not in place, and the parents are you know, babies are having babies. We can't get away from that. But, and I have to say, but this is where the responsibility comes in. When you are responsible for another human being, you've got to change the way that you think. You've got to flip up that script. And that doesn't always happen. So young people do struggle. Like I say, I've worked in schools. I've seen and worked with young girls who cut themselves, cut their legs, cut their arms, all cutting up their back, just to alleviate the pain of these sexual relationships that a lot of it stems from sexual relationships that they were not ready for, that make them feel worse about themselves. And so, you know, like I say, taking responsibility and being honest, we have to start being honest and say, I opened my foot a few times, you know, and it's not just because you don't. For me, bringing people into my house was never a thing for me. You know, my children didn't see them kind of things. But, you know, they know that mums had relationships. They just see the relationships. And that was me consciously thinking about their well-being. Having 2 boys and 1 girl, right? And it's like, I have to be responsible because my boys are going to be looking at girls and how to treat women. So I have to show them from that perspective. This is the type of woman that you want. One woman that will hold up herself and, you know how to manage herself. And from my daughter's point of view, again, this is how you are to be a young lady as well. And this is how you to carry yourself as a young lady. So we have to, as grown-ups, we have to take responsibility because, you know, sex is easy. It's too easy now. Back in the day, but it's too easy. And you can have anybody just go online, tap in, and it's like, can I meet you tonight?
That's how. Can I meet you in an hour? That's how easy it is. Really. Or me downstairs. But Ryan Gordon made a comment. He was sharing that in Australia, kids were watching porn, and the kid's home address appeared on the porn database, and the porn stars turned up at the home. They showed this on Aussie News channel to turn kids off porn.
Really?
That's interesting.
Well, that is interesting. I don't know about that. And, you know, my safeguarding there's issues there, left, right, and centre. That whole...
It's extreme, It is extreme, isn't it? Charlie said young people are very smart at having adults believe one thing when they're actually about another. That is true. A wayward child is not always the result of a parent who is not doing a good job. Kids are so smart. I agree to a certain extent, because I think that the external pressures and peer pressure can really play a massive role. But just relating it back to my example growing up, when my you know, it was really my peer group that gave me the moral compass that I had, as opposed to my parents, because my parents didn't really talk about sex. Well, they didn't with us. All I would hear from, you know, in particular, my father was, oh, make sure you don't get pregnant, you know, make sure you focus on your books so you're not going to bring home no picnic by the time you're 16. Da, 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 da. Instead of saying to me, you are young, you are smart, you are beautiful, you are precious. What you have is precious. Not everybody is worthy of what you have, Janelle. Remember that. He has to be worthy of that. I didn't have that drummed into me from my parents. And I think that's the narrative. Rather than saying, oh, man, you don't get yourself pregnant, you know, which is coming from still they're trying to come from a place of protecting you. But how about speaking life into those young people?
But then at the same time, when you think about our parents, who was teaching them anything? Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So this is, I feel, is the brokenness of the communication, especially within the Black community. We don't have these open conversations. And I think, as you mentioned before, Yvonne, we are the elders now. So it is our responsibility to have those conversations, especially with the young people coming up, etc. When you see them carry themselves in a certain way, it's not about being judgmental, but it's about speaking about your truth with them so it can potentially help them, because it's about sowing those seeds. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we don't sow the seed, we're not going to reap a harvest of this greatness if we're not doing the work.
Yeah, it's true. And you touched a really valuable point about our parents. They didn't have what we have. Each generation will grow. Each generation will do better. Each generation will go further. My parents didn't have. My mum was. She passed away, so she wasn't able to tell me about periods or anything like that. My dad certainly didn't tell me about periods or anything like that. And my discovery of periods was like, I thought I was dying. And then a teacher gave me a book, and she, you know, I'd read about the story. But, you know, the story of this girl who had a period. But I didn't know a lot of the things that I've had to grow and learn. So this is why I'm saying it's really important for us to have this communication. It really is. And we can't, I'm not saying all these things. We can't blame our parents for not giving us what they didn't have.
Yeah.
You can only give what you have. And if they didn't have those resources, they just didn't have it. But now that we are coming up, we have more resources. We have more knowledge. So don't hold it to yourself. Don't be scared to talk to a young, if you see a young girl, you might not even know her. You might not know her mother or her father, but you see the young girl and you see she's vulnerable. Go and talk to her. You know, be friendly. Don't come out and don't judge her.
Yeah.
Friendly and say, you know, and talk about the good things that you see. And then add in those little bits to encourage her to do things in a different way. You know, there's nothing than us beating up our young people, but we want our young people to grow strong, and we want our elders. You know, when I say young people, I'm talking about myself because I'm very young, you know. So when I'm saying young people, I'm generalizing for all people, that we can, if your friend, you see your friend going wayward, if you see your friend as like had, you know, because we as women, we talk 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 10 and 12 partners in the space of 3 weeks, right? Then you have to talk to your sister and say, deep down, what's really going on? Because I do not believe, as free as anybody wants to be, I do not believe that if you're having all these sexual partners, that you are happy inside. There's something that is not connected inside if you are doing that. So what we got to remember is we receive. We are the receivers.
That is such a key point, as women as the receivers. And I've had those conversations with certain friends in my life, and it's not coming from a judgmental place, because you are an adult and you do what you want to do, but it's more coming from a place of love and concern, and me seeing my friend of value and feeling like my friend is devaluing themselves with the experiences and encounters that they're having, and to try and understand that. I just want to touch on a couple of comments. Charlie said her mother was very open about everything and very candid, and only one of them, as the children, adhered to her teachings. Not all of them did. So again, it's not all about the parents, not about the parents getting it right. She also said we have to be careful about tarnishing all Black and brown families with the same brush, because those conversations were definitely had in her household. And like you are talking about now, Yvonne, you're having those conversations in your household, and that's where those conversations need to happen. They need to happen in the home. Your parents, after all, you created your children from sex.
Yeah.
So you talk to them about it. Don't let them be going and getting it from their friends who haven't got a clue either, or these crazy pornographic movies that are just wildly unrealistic, you know. Deanna says, I tell my son that just because he is a boy, it doesn't mean it's okay to not to respect his body in the same way a girl is expected to. The message must also be the same for the boys as the girls.
Absolutely.
We are raising, we need to be raising men to have the respect for women as well.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
And how are they going to respect them, respect that woman if you as a mother or as a female with, you know, as an elder, not even having that conversation with that young man? So I totally agree with you, Deanna.
But what do you think about, okay, so we're going to quickly touch on monogamy versus, you know, multiple encounters versus celibacy. What do you think about that? Do you think that if you're in a relationship with somebody, then that relationship should be monogamous?
I think that if you are having a monogamous relationship, then it should be monogamous, right? Right? If that is the agreement. If you are having an open relationship, then that's the conversation and the agreement that you have had. This thing is about consenting adults, right? This is about us, again, taking responsibility of the conversations that we have. So if you know, if you want to have 3 men as a woman and all 3 men know, then all 3 men know. And everybody live happily ever after. Right?
Because they are no.
They all know and everybody happy.
Yeah.
It's when you have these relationships where you think it's monogamous and you think that this person is yours, or you're in a relationship and they've got 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 out there that you know nothing about. No. Right? So my thing is, if that's the relationship you want to have it, as long as every party is consenting to it and it's open, right? And if you are, I'm just going to say this, I said this the other day. If you are a man and you want to have this relationship where you've got 3 women and you're all living, you've got 3 women and they all know about each other. Let me just say how it was back in the day. Because people often, I've heard men say, well, it was like that in the Bible days. Yes, they had their wife, their so-called wife, they had concubines. That's how it was in the Bible. That's how they lived. But each one of those concubines was equal to the wife. He had to look after them in the same way, provide in the same way.
Right.
And, you know, equally. So if you think that you want that relationship, man and woman, just know this. Do your research and know that if you're coming to people nowadays, come correct. If you want to be a woman, especially if you want to, I'm single, you want to come to me and say, well, I've got another 2 women down the road. Let me tell you this, you better be providing, be able to provide for me in a way that you, and provide for those other 2 women as well. Otherwise, shut up, sit down, and go and sleep. That's what I'm saying. Because a lot of people are jumping on this thing, and for me, it's just foolishness. If you haven't got what it takes to manage it properly, sit down and shut up.
Yeah. I agree with you, because myself and Janelle, we was having this conversation offline, should I say, and when you look at, say, like the Old Testament in the Bible, you look at, say, like, for example, King Solomon, you know, he had a whole heap of wife, concubines and everything else, but yet this was a man that, you know, had so much wisdom, but those women, they didn't lack for nothing. Every one of them was treated accordingly. You know, same way like you even read about, say, King David, who was his father, etc. So it just goes to show, you see that if you believe in, say, the Bible, you can actually see how that actually ran. And even when you look at, say, like some of the African culture, even still, some of those men have how many wives, but then he looks after all their women. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing, you know? So,
and family.
And the family and the kids.
Family, yes. That's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, Lady J has made, sorry to cut you, but Lady J has made a really important point. She said, basically she said, when a man tells you they don't want a relationship, you need to believe them and don't try and make them change direction. Oh, I can change him. Oh, I'm going to give him the best sex in the world. I'm going to make him the best food. And he's done told you he doesn't want a relationship. So therefore, he's probably with you and others. Believe that man. And if you don't want that, if you want that monogamy, if you want it just to be you and him, then that's not the man for you. Don't think you're gonna change a man. I mean, Zena Marie says that people that are not even religious are calling out the Bible to defend their own foolishness. That is true as well. So it goes back to your point. If you really want to quote the Bible or quote ancient civilizations or quote, certain practices in certain parts of Africa where people have multiple wives or whatever, then you have got to step up to the plate, right?
Absolutely. It's funny, but they are doing that. People are doing that and want to use this thing. But you said something that from the last comment, and I just wanted to just add on to that before I go any further, about you can't change a man. You're going to offer him the best sex, blah, blah, blah. I just really want to give a news flash. You see the pum pum? It don't have no face. It don't have no face. Right?
100.
Right? So therefore, you see, when you think, oh, I'm going to give it to you, ain't giving it to him any different from anybody else unless you are an ironing board. All right? So don't think that you can change anybody or change it. If, like you say, when someone shows you who they are, if they tell you they do not want a relationship, they don't. Don't try and change them. Move on. Right?
Absolutely. You need to believe them, right? Oh my gosh, we have got like literally about 3 minutes left and there's so much more we can talk about. We do have a radio show and we can talk about this with you offline, Yvonne. We would love to invite you on the show if you're free this Friday. We'll talk about that offline. Guys, okay, that's a yes. Yay!
We're going to continue part 2, guys. This Friday, Yvonne, do you think you're available this Friday?
What time?
Between 4 and 7.
I mean, in the afternoon, evening time. Yeah, that's all right.
Yes. We won't have any connection problems there. We can just talk the things because there's so much more we really do want to talk about. We want to talk about, the sacredness of sex versus, I want to explore more of that because I think there's so much more to talk about. The idea of consent and how that idea has become exploited, and going back to the young people within the schools, how they feel this pressure, how there are these kind of gang rapes, if you like, these kind of sexual battery of these young females, and then the shame and then they're shamed.
Well, that was going on from my days as well, babe. I remember, certain girls in the area going through that same thing as well, and they were down for it because they were dealing with a level of trauma themselves. So this again, these are the rooted issues to why some of our females and even our young boys are doing the things that they're doing is because what they have been exposed to, and that's the reason why they're doing these things. And there is no real value to themselves. They don't really understand who they really are because they haven't been really taught to love themselves, to value themselves.
And Jeremiah, hey Jeremiah, thank you for joining us again. Jeremiah, who's been on the live before and he was on the radio show on Friday, he just wanted to reiterate a point. This is from his point of view as a man. He said women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of a relationship. So when we're talking about consent and when there is consent, women are the ones who allow or not sex to happen as long as it's consensual. And the man is the one who chooses if he's going to be in a relationship with you or not. It's a really interesting point of view, and it's something that we can explore further on Friday. But before we let you go, Yvonne, and you're coming back on Friday, so we're really happy about that. Let the people know where they can find you, because like you say, you're doing so much, and you've got a great show, After Dark show. So where can the people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at the Yvonne Michele TV. You can find me on MediaNet TV. You can find me on Facebook at Yvonne Michele's, and you can find me on Instagram at Yvonne Michele. That's everything is at Yvonne Michele, and Michelle only has one L. So if you put 2, you won't find me. It's 1 L.
It's the French style, right?
French style. Yeah, Yvonne Michele is very French. I don't know what my parents were thinking of. I think they wanted to go to France. But
Well, we love it. Listen, we've got 20 seconds left. We're going to say goodbye. Love you. And until Friday, have a blessed evening, Yvonne. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please join us on Friday on our radio show. We will see you then. Have a wonderful evening. We love you all. Mwah.
Okay.